Nurses. Welcome, everyone. I'm so excited to be on with you all today, talking about a hot topic. My name is Tiffany Palino. Welcome today. I am here to present about getting off orientation as a new nurse. A little bit about me. I've been a nurse over 16 years now, educator for about 5. I am the manager of pre-licensure and continuing education at Archer. I also am a tutor, and I'm really excited to be here with you all. If you could just tell me, where are you tuning in from? If you're on Facebook or on YouTube, feel free to add anything in the comments. If you're on Zoom, go ahead and type that in the chat. Where are you tuning in from? And while you're doing that, I just want to say, I'm so glad you're here, because this is one of those things that I wish someone told me about when I first became a nurse. I really wish I knew what are some things I should know right when I get off orientation. So some of you might be thinking, what should I be worried about? Does anyone have any worries? I remember for me, it was, how am I going to get this all done in one shift? It seems like a lot. Thank goodness I had a preceptor. And I just wish I knew kind of those top things that hopefully after today, you'll feel a little more confident about. So awesome. You're tuning in from New York, Philippines. Welcome. Ohio. I'm tuning in here from Tampa. So let's just get right into this. I want to say first, congratulations. Congratulations, you made it through nursing school. Congratulations, you made it through the NCLEX. And now you've made it through orientation. So now what? Some of you might be asking yourself, what do I do now? You're not alone, I promise you. And then after today, hopefully you feel a little more confident on that first solo shift. So quick story about me. Let's talk about when I first became a nurse. In that first month off orientation, oh my gosh, I quickly learned everything you need to know about night shift. I worked in a med-surg unit on night shift, and I learned that people get confused at night. Clients get a little confused and they don't sleep. I remember one shift, I had one patient trying to get out of bed, and another patient even made it into the hallway with their IV, and I just did not know what to do. I was at a loss. And at the same time, I had 6 patients this particular shift. I had to give meds to other patients. Another one wanted some water. Another one wanted to go to the bathroom. I was trying to chart. I was trying to call the doctor about something. And it just was like, what do I do? I really did feel pulled in so many different directions. But one thing I can say is my team was amazing. Shout out to night shift nurses, because I feel like your teamwork is the best. Also in the ER, I have some ER experience, and the teamwork there is just unmatched. So what happened was, I ended up having one of my techs, my CNA, help me, and she helped get that patient back into the room safely in the bed alarm on. And then my charge nurse also kind of pulled me aside after and said, hey, you don't have to be afraid to ask me for some help. And so what did that shift really teach me? That nights is hard. Night shift is hard, especially in a med-surg unit, and they're not quiet by any means. So when people use that Q word, quiet, it's not necessarily true. But I ended up persevering with a lot of teamwork, patience, and practice, right? That's really what works. So what I'm here today to talk to you about is kind of what you can do in that situation, because that was not easy. So we're going to go through my top 5. Top 5 things I think you should know as a brand new nurse off orientation. Number 1, just like I said, you're not alone. Use your resources. You have so many resources at your fingertips. I'm going to get into each of one of these in just a moment, but you're not alone. And I know sometimes it can feel really isolating, especially that first shift when you're by yourself, because you feel like you can't ask anyone for help, but I promise you, you can. People are rooting for you. They want you to be successful, just like I want you all to be successful. Number 2, prioritization and time management. This is a biggie. So many new nurses tell me I really don't know how I'm going to get the 100 tasks done. Well, I'm going to give you some tips. Hopefully that'll help. Number 3, documentation. I'm sure you remember from nursing school that if it wasn't documented, it wasn't done. And this is so true. Documentation is going to save you. Number 4 is self-care is patient care. I think we sometimes as nurses remember to take care of everyone else except for ourselves. So I'm here to tell you today that self-care is important because in turn, it's going to help you take care of your patients. And then finally, keep learning and build confidence. You've heard it before. Nurses are forever learners, right? We never stop learning. And so I want you to remember that you're not going to know everything that first shift, but hopefully with a little bit of time, a little bit of practice, a little bit of guidance, you learn a little more each day. So let's talk about that first one. You're never alone. Remember, you just got off orientation, so you are not expected to know everything yet. You are going to grow now in this first year as a nurse more than you ever have and more than you ever will. So this first thing listed here is independence does not mean isolation. What does that mean? That means that you are not alone. You have a lot of people there. Use your chain of command. You have your charge nurse. You have whoever precepted you. Hopefully they're on the same shift with you at least a couple times so you can kind of have them as your go-to. And then eventually, if you haven't already, you're going to make some friends on the unit. Nursing friends are absolutely the best friends. There's nothing like grabbing that buddy to help you come turn a patient or clean a patient or get a patient up. There's always someone you can help, you can rely on. And then this last one is about SBAR. I'm going to get into that in just a minute. But remember, when do you escalate things? When do you escalate things? So when should I use my chain of command? This is something a lot of new nurses are like, I don't know when to ask for help. Well, if something feels off, we all have that gut instinct. So if something feels off, you really should ask someone to come in. Hey, this doesn't look right. Can you come take a look at this? Especially if it's like something like vital signs. Also, when there's a sudden change in condition. So let's say we did our rounds on the morning and then we go back in an hour later and our patient just doesn't look right or doesn't seem right. That's when I also might use my chain of command and call someone for help. If something's not working, so you give medications and they're not working, the symptoms are getting worse, that's when you need to call for help or escalate it. And then whenever you're just not sure, trust your gut. And that is when you're going to call someone for help and they are going to be able to help you. So when you do escalate it, let's say to a physician, that's when you're going to go ahead and use that SBAR. Remember, S is situation. That's when you're going to tell who you are, your role, and what your immediate concern is. Hey, Nurse Tiffany here. I'm calling on 4B. I'm calling about Mr. Smith, who is short of breath. That's just really simple, the situation. The background, you're going to give that relevant contents. This patient was admitted yesterday with pneumonia, and he's been on antibiotics. And then A is my assessment. I'm going to share all my objective findings, especially vital signs. So I'm going to especially highlight his oxygen, right? If I'm calling about him being short of breath, I want to highlight that his oxygen saturations have dropped and he's on 2 liters and his respiration rate is high. It's now 32. He also looks very pale. So what I notice as new nurses is sometimes that's where you stop and you're waiting for the doctor to give you that recommendation. But I promise you, they're looking for you to give the recommendation as the nurse because you're the one who's watching your patients. You're the one at the bedside. So you should recommend, can you come see this patient right away? Can you assess them? And in the meantime, I'm going to increase their oxygen, or would you like me to increase their oxygen? And I'm probably going to call my charge nurse or rapid response to get here if you can't get here soon enough. That would be a recommendation. So remember to include that. I promise you, if you use this SBAR format, it's going to be systematical and you're going to get everything you need to know, all the information in there. So what I want to recommend here is you want to speak clearly. You want to be concise. You don't want to add anything extra. The doctors or whoever you're calling, they just want to hear the facts. And you want to remember, escalate early. it's safer to do this. We're there to take care of patients to make sure they're safe. So we have to escalate in a timely manner. And this is also something I noticed with new nurses is that they're afraid. They're afraid to ask for help. And this is not the time to be afraid. So stay concise and remember, escalate early. All right, number 2, prioritization. I don't want you to forget what you learned in nursing school or when you studied for that NCLEX. It comes back, especially when you're a nurse on that first shift by yourself. So this first bullet here is remember your ABCs, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, stable versus unstable, all those things. Remember, you do want to see that sicker client first. Under here where it says use your brain, cluster care and use your brain. Does anyone know what I mean by brain? Not necessarily this here, but your brain is what you're going to take notes on. So some of us refer to that as our brain. So I want you to come up with a system that makes sense for you. When you're getting a report from another nurse or from a physician or from anyone from the ER, if you're getting an admission, make sure you're writing it down in a systematic way. So I personally was the type who had a blank piece of paper and I knew where I put everything. I always put my IV in the right upper quadrant. I put all my meds that were due in the right lower. I put all the history and everything on the left side of the page. There are so many different things out there and different templates that you can use, but find what works for you. Cluster care means that you're going to do as much as you can when you go into that client's room to try to get everything done so you can time manage. And then you want to just get organized, make a list, get organized. Things I like to put on my list: when meds are due, when dressing changes are due, if the client has physical therapy. I like to write down anything outstanding. So if I get a report from my previous nurse and they say, hey, I haven't gotten to blank, I didn't get to check on something, or I didn't get to call the wife, can you call them for me? And then at the end of this, it also says, figure out who you're going to see first. How are you going to do that? Well, you're going to use the first 3 bullets that we talked about here. So let me give you a scenario because this happens all the time. All right, you have 2 clients. They're both calling you on the call bell. Both call bells are going off. They both need you at the same time. So some facilities, they have cell phones, right? It goes right to your cell phone and you're like, oh my gosh, who am I going to see first? They both need me. So client A, you remember from report, they have COPD, they're on oxygen, and usually their SpO2 or their oxygen saturation's in the 90s. But I guess their machine's going off saying they're 85. So that's client A. Client B, they are 1 hour post-op. So they just got back from abdominal surgery and their IV is beeping. Who are you going to see first? Type in the chat or put in the comments. Who do you think you're going to see first? Client A or client B? Client A or client B? Who do we think? Client A, COPD. Client B, 1 hour post-op and their IV is beeping. Some of you are saying B, some of you are saying A. It's really hard to say, right? So using ABCs and Maslow's hierarchy of needs and stable versus unstable. If my client has COPD and their oxygen saturation is 85, 84, 83, I got to go to them first. You know what I might do? I might delegate someone else to go check on the patient B whose IV is beeping and just say, hey, can you go check on that pump and tell them I'll be right in there as soon as I'm done with this client. It could be the charge nurse. It could be another nurse that you see. It could even be your UAP or your assistant personnel just to go in and check, not necessarily to fix anything, but just, hey, can you go check on them for me? So that's what I mean by you can't be in 2 places at once. You have to figure out where you're going to go. Okay, now number 3. I talked about this. I can't stress this enough, but if it wasn't documented, it wasn't done. Documentation is so important. Timely, accurate. You want to chart everything, but you want to make sure you chart those details. You want to make sure you're charting anything abnormal. I really want you all to take away from this as please don't be that nurse that has to stay late to chart. It's really not a good habit to start so early. Yes, it's important to make sure you chart everything, but if you are the one who's always staying a little extra, your manager is not going to like that. And also they're going to wonder, why aren't you charting during the day? Why aren't you charting during your shift? So my suggestion here is document as you go in real time and as often as possible. So with medications, we do the barcode scanning typically. If your facility doesn't have that, make sure you're writing it down. I think most places have that by now, at least in the US. And don't forget here your pain reassessments when you call your physician or any incident reports. So for me, documentation has saved me so much in my career, especially when I was a new nurse, and especially in incidents like when a client falls. So a lot of nurses told me when I first became a nurse, ooh, you don't want your client to fall, your patient to fall, because you're going to have a lot of paperwork. And I never quite understood what that meant, but now I do. You have a lot of paperwork, or what we call incident reports, and you have to put every detail in there. But remember, when I'm putting details in there, I'm being objective. You do not ever add feelings or what you wish happened. You just state the facts. So sometimes I find that new nurses don't know what to write, or they don't know where to write it or document it. So most electronic healthcare medical records, now they have comment sections. So you can click and add a comment somewhere. So an example of when I would do this is if I look at someone's IV, for instance, and it's patent and there's no redness or swelling, but maybe I changed the dressing, and I would document that in there if I don't have anywhere else to put it. And I would also create a note. So if there's nowhere to put anything, I don't see any flow sheet or anywhere I can add this, you can always create a narrative note. Remember, with notes, you want to put the time and you want to just state the facts. Also, if your client says anything, you always want to put that in quotations whenever that's applicable. And yes, I mean everything they say. I have worked in the ER, and a lot of times clients say bad words. And if it's relevant to me taking care of this client, then I will definitely include anything they say. What I'm saying here is please don't cut corners. You're going to develop bad habits really early if you don't really spend some time documenting. Another time this was really important for my career, I did travel nursing for over 10 years, and I did an assignment in Austin, Texas. I had a patient fall, and I did all my documentation. And then travel assignments are only 3 months. So 3 months go by and I'm in another state. I'm on to another assignment. And I get a call from this Austin hospital, and they say, hey, we need to talk to you about this situation. And so I said, okay. So I got on a call, and they just said, I just want to commend you for your amazing documentation, because you really painted a picture of how the whole day went. And you did everything in your power to prevent this client from falling, and they still fell. And I just want to say that you did great documenting. So we're going to just try to figure out the process that we have at this hospital, and maybe we can prevent something like this from happening in the future. And I really did. I documented, I just, like I told you in the comments, I did an extra documentation 2 minutes before this client fell. And it just said that I encouraged her to use the call bell to call me if she needed anything. And I forget what else I wrote. It was many years ago, but basically the long story short here is you got to make sure that you document everything and add comments where it's applicable. Okay, number 4. Self-care is patient care. You cannot pour from an empty cup, guys. Taking care of yourself is safe nursing. So many of you, have you heard of compassion fatigue? Compassion fatigue. If you haven't heard of that, maybe you've heard of burnout, nursing burnout. This is a real thing, and it's really happening. So what is compassion fatigue? It is just being exhausted, emotionally exhausted from constant exposure to patient suffering. So a lot of times you see this with units where clients are passing away a lot, their comfort care, their hospice, or a lot of ICUs, especially if they've had a few deaths. That's compassion fatigue. That's when you've given it your all and you're just emotionally exhausted from that exposure. Burnout is when you get that physical, that mental, and emotional. So not just emotional like compassion fatigue, but it's a little bit of everything. And it's because of the workload. Maybe you're short-staffed, because of the stress, because you always get the worst patients because you're the new nurse, right? And you're the one with all the knowledge, but you're stressed. Or you work on a unit where you feel like no one is there to support you. Well, I'm here to tell you that I'm here to support you because this is not easy. Being a nurse is not easy. And especially in that first year, there's so much going on through your brain. There's been studies that say that there's hundreds of thoughts in your head as an ICU nurse because there's so many things you have to think about. And I think that's true for every kind of nurse, not just ICU, especially if you have a lot of patients. When I worked in Hawaii, I had 9 patients at a time. That's a lot. That's a lot to keep track of. So, self-care, this stuff, you have to start this early. You want to build awareness to this now because habits need to start from day one. All right, this first bullet, take your breaks. I am guilty of not doing this and I don't recommend it. And nurses tend to pride themselves. Oh, I didn't get my break. No, don't. You need to take your break. It's super, super, super important. When you take your break, I want you to find a hydration buddy. Find someone on the floor that you can go get a drink of water with. I know you can't sometimes keep your water nearby, so go into that break room, get your water. And that hydration buddy needs to remind you to drink. I want you to go to the bathroom. Please do not hold your urine, your pee for the whole shift, especially if you work that long shift. I know these two things sound so simple, but that's really going to help with your fatigue and it's going to help you reduce any kind of errors that you might make because you're tired. Debrief, especially through tough situations. Oh my gosh, I forget what hospital I worked at, but they really, really drilled this into us. And they gave us 10 minutes after anything crazy happened. So if there was a code, or if someone had passed away, or if I just had a really stressful situation, they always said to me, Tiffany, go take 10 minutes. I want you to take a break right now because you need to come down from that because some situations can be really, really tough. And it's important because how can I go take care of my other 8 patients if I just had this very tough situation going on? So it's okay to take those 10 minutes. It's okay. It's also okay to say, hey, I'll go check on that when I'm done with this client. Because sometimes that happens. Sometimes you're in a client's room, you're taking care of that client, and someone else is going to come, hey, Tiffany, I actually need you in room 3. Okay, well, I can't go to room 3 right now. I'm just going to finish up with them. Can you just let them know that I'll be there as soon as everything's done here? Something like that. I also want you to protect your well-being. So you won't stay compassionate if you burn out. You won't be safe if you burn out. You will lose that light. Think about your why. I want you to remember your why. Why'd you become a nurse? And then I want you to do something fun on your days off. So many of us, your first year of nursing, forget about this because you're so tired and you just want to lay around all next day. Hey, that's fine. I'm all about that. But on those other days, maybe do something fun. Take your dog for a walk, go to the beach, go for a run, go for a walk, call a friend, do something. So if you work those 3 shifts, 3 12s or 4 12s, I know some people are doing, you have some days off, just make sure you're doing something fun and doing something positive. And I really want you to protect yourself because self-care is patient care. If you're not okay, how are you going to take care of people? How are you going to be able to smile at someone if you know you're just drowning inside? So this is really, really hard to do, and it takes a lot of effort on your end, but I really want you all to try to practice some self-care. Someone was telling me in the chat here that you have to handle 30 clients. That's a lot. Yes, that's hard. And last but certainly not least, keep learning and keep growing. You're not going to be perfect on day 1. And I want you all to remember that. Your orientation that you just got off is just the beginning. You are growing every day. Am I the same nurse I was day 1 off orientation? No. Shout out to Junie, who was my preceptor back then. She was someone who told me that I wasn't going to make it. And she was someone who told me that I really need to get myself together because I wasn't very organized and that I had a lot of hard shifts and I was too forgetful and I was this and that. And at the end, she really helped me. She built my character and she was my mentor every time I worked. She was my person I would go to. So I'm not the same person I was back then, and you are just going to continue to grow. Each week, I want you to kind of pick something, a skill or an area to focus, and kind of just set that goal, because confidence builds with time, but those goals are going to help. Let me give an example. This week, I'm going to put 2 IVs in. If I need them, I'm going to put 2 IVs in. And you know what? I'm going to learn how to set up the pump a little better. I'm going to take time out of my shift. If I have a moment, I'm going to go help another nurse learn how to do that pump, because I only did it once in nursing school. I haven't had a client like that off orientation. So I'm going to kind of be proactive. I want you to do that. Use your mentors, use your educators. So all of you should have a go-to person as far as an educator that you can contact if you have any kind of questions about how to do something or what the protocol is. There's also places you can look, on the internet and things like that on your facility. But what I want you to do is use those mentors. Don't be afraid to ask questions. No question is a dumb question. We all have questions, even after 16 years of being a nurse. I don't know everything. I haven't done everything, and that's okay. I want you to attend workshops if you can. Join a professional nursing organization to stay current. So there's American Nurses Association if you're in the US. There's your state facilities or state associations, depending where you're at. Join them, get the emails, read up on what's really current and what's going on. And I want you to seek out someone that is experienced and that you feel confident going to. Don't go to the person who's very closed off. Go to the warm, welcoming person on the floor. That used to be me. I haven't worked on the floor in a little bit, but I was always the person that I would say, hey, come to me. I know you're new. I would go approach them because I think it's important. And you're not alone. You need to remember that. And finally, keep pushing. Keep pushing, because growth happens at a steady pace. It doesn't happen overnight. I want you to celebrate those small wins. And that's going to help you build your confidence and your competence. I'll never forget, I had a new nurse. I taught her a couple of years ago, and she messaged me and said, I got that Foley catheter in on the first try, and you were in my brain because you were telling me how to do it, and I did it, and I've never been more excited. And you know what? You should celebrate that. That is not easy, and you did it. So in closing here, guys, all of our takeaways: you're not alone. Know who to go to, know your resources, use that SBAR, prioritize, and time management, because those are your besties. Document everything. It's going to protect you and it's going to protect your patients. Self-care is patient care. Take care of yourselves out there, nurses, and then keep learning and building confidence. These aren't one-time lessons. These aren't one-time lessons, guys. This is just the foundation of your career. And if you use these key takeaways, you are going to be successful. All right, we have about 2 or 3 more minutes. Any questions, please let me know. I am happy to answer your questions, but you are going to do great. You are awesome nurses already for being here. You've survived nursing school, you've passed the NCLEX, and now you've survived orientation. So take these hints, and hopefully you will have a great first shift, first year as a nurse. And I promise you, I learned the most in that first year. If there's no more questions, I just want to thank you all. I'll give another minute if anyone has questions. Thank you all for being here on Zoom and on Facebook and on YouTube. If you have any questions or need anything at all, don't hesitate to reach out to us. And have a great day, everyone.